She said it sounded like a dog's name and that it was completely absurd to name a child after a video game and that we would end up regretting it, etc. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up the name I chose for my baby? Ugh, I just hope it's not a really stupid name because I've had a lot of those and I can't keep defending them. My boyfriend, 28 male, and I, 30 female, are expecting a baby in November. When I found out I was pregnant, we agreed on an arrangement. I pick the name if it's a boy, and he picks the name if it's a girl. Of course, we could decline a name if the other really didn't like it at all. We also agreed to choose a name related to video games or the geek universe, since we both share this passion. As a big fan of Kingdom Hearts, it was obvious that the name would be Roxas. I love Kingdom Hearts and I love Roxas. I love that name. Okay, thank God it's not something crazy. We spent a lot of time playing these games together with my boyfriend during lockdown, and it's one of the best memories. On his side, boyfriend chose Melody for a girl in reference to Doctor Who, since it is thanks to our common passion for this show that we met. Okay, those are both very cute names. I like them a lot. They're not very common, they're kind of unique, but they're still really cute. So, what's the problem? He wasn't a big fan of Roxas at first, just like I wasn't a fan of Melody, but we had fun defending the names we had chosen and we finally agreed. Melody or Roxas it would be. I like this. I feel like the only problem that could arise from this is if someone, maybe your in laws, has a problem with it. Turns out the baby will be a boy, so Roxas it is. As soon as we knew the gender, we started talking to him using his first name, and we even had a blanket personalized with his first name embroidered on it. But that was without counting the in laws, especially grandmother in law. She never liked me, nothing personal, just that no one is good enough for her grandson. And until now, I was dealing with it. But we made a mistake by revealing the name before the birth to our families. Of course, grandmother in law hated it, even more so when she found out that I had chosen it. She said it sounded like a dog's name and that it was completely absurd to name a child after a video game and that we would end up regretting it, etc. Mother in law pretty much agreed with her, and they ended up telling us that there was still plenty of time to change. Problem is that my boyfriend is very influenceable, and since his family said they didn't like the name, he started to have doubts, telling me that it didn't seem very natural to him and that we could still change it. That he was afraid that others would make fun of him at school, but I know very well that he says that just because his family has influenced him. He ended up telling me that we would name the baby Roxas anyway, but I still feel like he is nervous about his family, and I noticed that he stopped using the name in general in conversations or when talking to the baby. Name your own kids whatever you want to name. Don't butt into other people's kids, no matter if your mom, grandma, aunt, cousin, sister, brother. Like, it's 100% up to the parents. Like, it's enough to going through childbirth itself. Let them pick the damn name. Like, that's it. At the last family dinner, my mother-in-law asked me if I had changed my mind, and I lost my temper a bit, answering that no, I hadn't changed my mind and I wouldn't no matter what they said. What hurt me was that my boyfriend didn't back me up or say anything. He seemed embarrassed. We talked about it and he finally told me that he didn't want to fight with his family over a name and that maybe it would be good if we picked a more conventional one. I got angry and told him that I would name the baby Roxas at birth whether he wanted to or not. He didn't say anything, but I can feel that he is a little bit mad at me, so I feel a little bit like the asshole here. What do you think?
Storytime about why you should stay away from guys who just got out of a long-term relationship. So a little background information, I was 14 and I was in high school. And I had just moved from a normal high school to a special education unit where there was only about 60 to 90 kids. And I met this guy named Robert, and he was supposedly the most popular guy in school. He was a grade above me, and he was super hot. He definitely had a reputation with the girls, and his body count was higher than his age. Well, I have a single stay-at-home mom, and her and I haven't had the best relationship, and she's kind of strict but also kind of not. Like, for example, sis will let me get my belly button and my tongue pierced, but will not let me hang out with boys. Does that make sense? Absolutely not, but here we are. Well, somehow Robert and I started talking, and then we started dating, and everything was going super good. I was seeing him every day, spending every single hour that I possibly could with him, until I came home one day with a hickey on my neck, like for part 2. Part 2 about why you should stay away from a guy who has just gotten out of a long-term relationship. So like I said, him and I started dating, and the one day I came home with a hickey on my neck. I didn't sleep with him, but him and I were fooling around. But my mom went psychotic. She grounded me. I wasn't allowed to see or speak to Robert ever again. Which was stupid because I'm a 14-year-old girl who's in love with a boy. I'm definitely going to find a way to talk to him. So now this led to me thinking that he was going to get bored and not want to be with me anymore. So finally, 2 months later, my mom was letting up and she let me go out with my friend Lauren. But we ended up just going to Lauren's house so that way Robert could come and see me. And I think I forgot to mention a few red flags. All of my friends told me that Robert had an ex-girlfriend of 4 years that he was absolutely in love with. But that wasn't the worst one. He told me that he was never going to get over his ex and that he was always going to want to be with her. And then he asked me to be his girlfriend 2 days later. And we're going to call her Lucy. Well, I posted a few TikToks and Lucy's best friend Ellie commented on my TikToks, like for part 3. Part 3 about why you should stay away from guys who had just gotten out of a long-term relationship. Like I said, I posted some TikToks of Robert and I, and Lucy's best friend Ellie decided to comment. Ellie commented something along the lines of, "Look at Robert finally getting some attention." And Lucy, which is his ex-girlfriend, commented, "He can finally leave me alone now." So I screenshotted it and I showed it to Robert and he was like, "Oh, just forget about it. It was nothing. Block them." But instead of that, I decided to be petty and I posted another TikTok saying, "Look at Robert finally getting some attention." 5 minutes later, Ellie Snapchatted me and she was like, "I don't know why you're doing that. Like, I just commented that because he was literally just texting Lucy on Christmas, saying that he misses her and he would do anything to get back together with her." So I screenshot it and I show it to Robert and he doesn't say anything. He literally just straight up ignores me. So obviously we broke up. He got a new girlfriend and she would literally call me every name under the sun. So I gave her a little reminder that he's never going to get over Lucy. And I started dating Robert's best friend and he is so loyal and I love him so much.
What I've done might just damage our 15 years of friendship. Am I the asshole for canceling a check of $12,000 that I wrote for my infertile friend for her next IVF cycle over a joke? I, 35 female and infertile. My ex-husband and I tried everything to have kids, but it just never happened. He divorced me, went and married someone younger who was able to give him a kid from what I gather. They're expecting a second child together. It hurts like hell seeing someone else have what I couldn't. I get frustrated with myself sometimes and with my family blaming me for basically everything. I turn to my friends for support, especially Alicia. She's in the same infertility boat as me, but she and her husband are currently trying IVF, hoping it'd work. Alicia asked for me to help pay for her upcoming IVF cycle. I agreed to write her a check of $12,000. I really wanted to help her, and the money came with no strings attached. I wrote the check and gave it to her last week. She was very appreciative of it. The very next day, I got a sudden message from a mutual friend, Carol, with a screenshot of the conversation she had with Alicia. Turns out she and Alicia were talking about the next IVF cycle, and Alicia said she hoped the cycle would work because she didn't want to end up divorced and having her husband go marry someone younger and have a baby with them and another one on the way. Oh, she was doing a low blow. What the F? Well, she's alone and without a family at 35. She's 32. I was stunned and hurt. I knew she met me here, but I did not confront her. I simply contacted my bank and canceled the check. In the evening, Alicia called to ask why I canceled the check and I told her. She went batshit, saying she didn't mean it that way and that she thought this was somewhat of an inside joke between desperate and fertile women. She came over with her husband the next day begging that I write another check, but I refused. An argument ensued and her husband thought I wasn't being supportive of her like when she supported me throughout my struggles. She left crying and we haven't talked since then. Her husband keeps reminding me, while repeatedly calling Carol a toxic snake, of the date of the next cycle, saying they can't have it after I took the money that was supposed to pay for it back. Some friend thinks I'm being oversensitive. Carol's on my side telling me to tell them to go to hell, but I feel so bad about it. What I've done might just damage our 15 years of friendship. Maybe I should not have canceled it, but I just felt so offended by what she said about me and how she basically mocked my unfortunate circumstances. So, am I the asshole? If someone's my friend, I would never, even in a joking matter, you know how you can use some things in our lives as a joke, even if it's really bad? But this is one of those things you just really don't joke about, especially since it already happened to you and now it's happening to her. You're basically saying, haha, I don't want to end up like this bitch because she's childish and blah, blah, blah. That's fucked up. Oh my God.
The asshole for telling my wife that her relationship with our maid was inappropriate. My wife and I had been married for 3 years, and this year we moved into a bigger house and she got pregnant. After 3 months of pregnancy, I hired a maid to help with the house chores. I was raised with some maids, so I thought, why not do the same? My wife was very chatty with her one day and insisted on helping her clean. I told her not to help because I hired her to do the job and that she should not interfere, but she kept doing it. Sometimes I find them both drinking coffee and talking together or doing whatever, and I had to tell the maid to go back to work and my wife tried to make her stay. They even go to other places together like the mall or cafes outside of work hours. I told my wife that her relationship with the maid was inappropriate since she's our worker and not a friend. My wife was mad at me and for a few days they didn't talk to each other. But then my wife came to me and said that she fired the maid so that there's no work relationship, and now that they can be friends. I blew up at her saying that she had no authority to fire her since I hired her, and that she crossed the line. I told my wife to get her shit together, and now she's giving me the silent